Have you guys ever seen a self-contained, fun little side story that was getting progressively more interesting as the episode continued? Well, that was episode 44 of Dragon Ball Super, and I have a lot to say, so let's get started. Starting off with the plot to just give you the basic details, this episode actually starts off from a comical sense in the fact that Bulma's working on some type of sweets for this victory party that she's supposed to have, and the one person to give her the actual ingredients towards working on these sweets for this victory party is Monaka, as we've obviously learned that he's actually a delivery boy at this point in the series. In the meantime, we already know that Goten and Trunks are always troublemakers, always trying to snoop around and do some funny things. And as they are looking at Monaka's ship, they sneak on it. And obviously Monaka, who is a delivery boy, he's going towards this weird planet to deliver a martial arts tape to a guy by the name of Potajutsu. And as they get to this planet, interestingly enough, there's this big villain called Grill who wants to steal Potajutsu's pacifier, which essentially holds the power to the planet by granting it superhuman water. And as a result of holding Monaka hostage, Goten and Trunks were forced into giving in to Grill. And as Goten and Trunks are captive, Bulma and Vegeta are obviously concerned as a result of this, because Bulma was actually spying on Goten and Trunks with the Capsule Corp spy cameras, and Jaco actually comes around looking for this guy named Grill. And we all know Bulma at this point with Jaco, she pretty much has a sense of inspiring Jaco to do things. In this instance, she was actually inspiring Jaco to go towards this planet to help out with Vegeta by talking about the fact that Jaco had defamed the Galactic King's picture. So what happens as a result of this, Vegeta and Jaco head over to this planet, and pretty much it gets really interesting from here on out, where we see Vegeta facing off against, Grill and his men. Vegeta actually comes in with this badass appearance. He just literally blasts everybody away. And pretty much it seems like Vegeta's going to handle this fight until this gooey water or substance somehow gets a hold of Vegeta, saps him of his power, and just when the episode was going to really get interesting, we're about to see what happens as this copy of Vegeta is created, it abruptly ends. So, moving on to the next element of this episode, how were the action sequences? The action sequences were pretty good. They were very brief. There weren't that many fighting sequences. The first fighting sequence that contained Goten and Trunks facing off against Grill and his men, I thought that was a fun little scene. I thought that it had good animation. I thought the artwork was pretty good. It was a significant upgrade from episode 43 of Dragon Ball Super, where we saw Baby Pan and the Pilaf gang. And I thought they did a better job this week, which was interestingly enough to see that they put their best editors in this. In terms of some interesting details that I noticed, they're once again kind of emphasizing on this whole future Trunks returning thing, because they're once again foreshadowing future Trunks' return, as Kid Trunks was seen with the sword once again, just like in the revival of F Saga, as we saw him talking at the party that he would come with a sword. So it's interesting enough that they're really hyping up this whole future Trunks thing coming. And what I found interesting about this episode is that Goku, from the previews from last week, it seemed like he was going to be in this episode. Like, if you look at the way they were panning out the scenes, it made it seem like Goku was actually going to be on this planet. And even though we kind of already knew some spoilers about some of the things this episode was going to be about, it seemed like Vegeta kind of took over the role that was expected of Goku to be from what the previews were showing us, which is telling you that the previews can be misleading for a good sense of not necessarily just giving away all the nitty-gritty. And the last thing I noticed is that the copy Vegeta looks very similar to the possessed characters in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. And for those of you who don't know, in Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Toa and Mira have a way of basically inflicting an evil amount on their opponents or people that they want to possess. And as a result of this, they have like this negative aura around them where their eyes change and they have a symbol on their face. And that looks very similar to what we've seen in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. So, other than the artwork, my most memorable moment of this episode would probably have to be Vegeta's entrance. And I found that this was really interesting because you kind of thought from the get-go that Goten and Trunks could easily handle these guys, and it didn't really seem like Goten and Trunks would struggle. They were obviously not even using their Super Saiyan forms, but they were kind of trying to protect Potojutsu at the same time, so it kind of got them off guard, in addition to Monaka being hostage. And I think as a result of this, when you saw Vegeta, you knew Vegeta was easily going to handle him. And I thought that when his entrance came in, how he just blasted people away, that seemed very reminiscent of Vegeta's character. And I thought that was probably the most badass intro we've seen of Vegeta in a long time, especially in the Dragon Ball series. So overall, I'm going to have to give this episode 4 stars. It was a decent episode and a decent side story, but it just felt that all of the interesting stuff is going to be saved for the next episode. So I just felt this episode just wasn't interesting enough to give it 5 stars. But it wasn't bad, and I felt that this episode is doing a pretty decent job as a self-contained story, kind of saving up for the next big arcs that are to come. And I think that in addition to this, Dragon Ball Super's kind of touching on some things that Dragon Ball GT did, in the sense that Vegeta is so strong along with Goku at this point that it's kind of hard to find a villain for them. So in order to find a villain, they're kind of using their own power against them, kind of what we saw with Baby Vegeta in Dragon Ball GT. And I think that's kind of taking a testament to what the direction of Super is in terms of how strong Goku and Vegeta are compared to everyone else. So that pretty much does it for my review. In terms of my predictions, it seems like Goku's going to face against this copy Vegeta, which are going to add a major event to this little mini saga that they're throwing on the side, and it would obviously make sense because Goku's the only person who can compete. But on the interesting note, because Goku is obviously hindered because of the whole, uncontrollably ki thing from the previous episodes, we're not necessarily sure how he's going to perform. And it's also interesting to say that Vegeta mentions in the preview that he has lost his powers. So it's kind of like this whole energy thing has sapped his energy away. So it's very interesting to see how they're going to give Vegeta's going to get his energy back. If I were to make a prediction, I would say Vegeta's going to eat some type of senzu bean or at least get healed by Dende to get his energy back. And for the last prediction, I think that as we saw Gotenks turning into a Super Saiyan 3 in the preview, I predict that Goten and Trunks are going to do something silly to completely screw up the situation, and that's going to lead to Goku having to save the day. So that's been my review and my predictions, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a decent episode, and I really look forward to the next one. So please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys. And for today's hashtag, I have hashtag pacifier.